Hello, this is Jay Spillers with Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest is Leah Pardee. Leah, introduce yourself.
Hello, Jay. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I am so excited to be here. I'm an alignment mentor and breathwork facilitator and meditation teacher. I host the Bare Naked Soul podcast, and my mission is really to spread mindfulness, awareness of the present moment as a way to manifest our dream lives. And I do that with workshops, with retreats, with coaching. So I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So, how did you get into meditation?
So a couple of years ago, so let's say about 4 years ago, I didn't really know what meditation was. I'd heard the term, of course, I've heard the word. Didn't know anyone who did it. No one really talked about it where in the circles I was with in my work, it wasn't really a thing anyone ever talked about. And so I was in a very stressful corporate job. I was in sales. I was hustling all the time to get my sales team to hit their quota. I had just finished grad school, was just really in this mindset of my life is about doing. My life is about producing results and working. And that's what I'm here on earth to do, right? And so I had a lot of stress and anxiety. I had painful, chest pains from anxiety, which I thought was just a normal part of being in a stressful job. I thought this is what you do. You give up any sort of relaxation so that you can make lots of money and therefore be happy, right? That was kind of what was going on in my mind at the time. And so I stumbled upon, in my reading that I was doing primarily for work, for success, reading all these books on how to be successful, I came across the book, The Secret. And that was kind of the first thing that sparked my interest in this kind of other world where you focus on things inside of you versus the material outside world. From there, I started listening to podcasts, and really podcasts were my introduction to mindfulness and meditation. And I had heard of meditation, and I had started hearing that it's part of a path to success, right? It was all about that for me. But I also started learning that this is a way to really connect with yourself more inwardly and get some relaxation and let go of stress and worry. And so I made a commitment with myself. I was going to, for 1 month, meditate every single day. And I started really, really small, which I highly recommend. So I was doing 5 minutes a day in the morning, right before, I'd get up early, 5 minutes in the morning before I went to work. And then I think I was using the app Headspace to kind of guide me. And then pretty quickly I was enjoying it. And I made it 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes right before bed. And right before bed was amazing because I had trouble sleeping and I was always laying in bed just worrying about the next day. And so before the month was over, I was doing 20 minutes a day of meditation. And I mean, I can't even imagine not doing it as a daily practice. I mean, there's certainly days when I don't do it, but it's pretty rare. And it's just been so transformative for my life.
So, did you use a guided meditation initially for the 5 minutes for that first month, or was it just music? Or
Yeah, so I think I used the app Headspace. And at the time, this was a couple of years ago, but they had a program, might have been 10 days, might have been 20 days, but it gave you little guided meditations to do every day. So I started off using guided meditations, which were really helpful because they kind of prompt you back into the present moment as you start to slip off into the world of your mind, so I started off with the guided, and then little by little transitioned into less guided, simply because I want to be as present as possible and not be listening to someone talk the whole time, and started using music, and then I started meditation as a practice in everyday life, mindfulness. But yeah, I think I started with Headspace.
and so when you got up to 20 minutes a day, were you just listening to music? And do you actually go longer than 20 minutes a day now?
It's honestly hard to remember exactly what I was doing back then. All I know is I was starting to get hooked. It was taking me to this place of ease that I had never felt. This place of satisfaction that was so inward, and it was better than achieving things, which was what my whole life had been about previously, was achieving things and impressing people and getting what I wanted. And this inner satisfaction was so much deeper. So the practice grew and grew. Now I pretty much do I do breath work and meditation coupled together in the morning for about 20, 30 minutes. And then right before bed, I do another maybe 15 to 30 minutes. And then throughout the day, I sometimes take moments here and there where I have a few moments and I'm in that waiting stage. I pull up somewhere to meet a friend for dinner and I have a few minutes early, right? Anytime I'm in that waiting, I try my best to not get on my phone. And instead I take a few moments just to breathe and meditate with my eyes open, often just kind of observing things. But yeah, that's kind of what my practice looks like right now.
So what does mindfulness mean to you?
Mindfulness to me is observing the world, observing the present moment that's here right now without judgment, without control, just letting it be what it is and observing what that is, and sinking into this feeling of just being present with everything that is in life. So it's much like a meditation. You know, the goal for me with meditation is always to be in the present moment. So to bring this, it's like when we have our thoughts, before you've ever meditated, for me at least, my thoughts were an endless stream. And there were so many of them, and there were multiple streams of thinking going on at once, these conversations in my head, all these things. And until I started meditating, that was just constant. And meditation gives you a pause to come back to the present moment where you start to hear your thoughts in a different way. You start to observe your thoughts instead of being them. And so mindfulness to me is just taking that into life. So it might mean walking barefoot in my backyard and just kind of gazing up at the trees and just observing life as it is and noticing thoughts, but letting them go versus making stories out of them. And then I think going much deeper with it is taking it to more difficult situations in life, right? It's easy it's much easier to sit and be mindful on your own, on your bed, right before bed, you know, or walking in your backyard. But in everyday life, when things are a little stressful, when you open up an email that has something in it that you don't like, right? When things come across our world, bringing an element of mindfulness and being in the mindful way, it's just learning not to judge as much. It's learning not to try to control everything. And if it's a rainy day and maybe you didn't want it to rain that day, you're not going to control that. So why not let it be what it is and observe it and just sink into the moment? So yeah, that's I think that's what mindfulness is to me.
Well, it seems like even though you learn the basics of meditation or mindfulness, years later, you're still sort of going to new levels with it. Like even things like, no judgment, like trying to let go of those things where you're thinking like, oh, that person's an idiot, that person's a this or that, just letting it go. And there's such a relief when you just let everything go, all the judgments, and even trying to let go of some of the positive ones, just put it aside. We're just going to accept the moment for where you are. It can be such a relief.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a relief because normally what we do is we try to control everything. We judge every single thing, whether we like it or we don't like it. And it's of course it's great to like things, but sometimes then we fall into this trap of everything needs to measure up to that. Oh, I wish this was more like that time when I had that thing, and that day was so much better, and that was going that way. And when you sink into just letting life unfold, yeah, it's such a relief. That's such a good way to put it.
So do you feel like you get energized during your meditation? Because I always felt like a lot of times I have a sense of well-being and I feel more energized after meditating in a way that I just don't really get from other things.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel I tend to be a very masculine person. I don't know if I want to say it's my natural state, but the state that I was in for my entire life up until the meditation and mindfulness started was very masculine, very do, very I'm a generator in human design. Just a energizer bunny. And so I have all of that energy in me. And when I meditate, that part kind of relaxes. I go into more of a flow state. But there is, I know what you mean. There's this energy to it. And I think maybe that's like focus. Because when we have all these stories running around in our mind and all these thoughts, and it's so crowded with thinking, I feel like that drains us. It can be draining. Those thoughts can drain our energy by pulling us in so many directions. And so meditation really like heightens our awareness and our focus. And that makes us just so much more powerful and potent in anything we decide to do with that energy.
Mm-hmm. So it's like the connection between mindfulness and meditation is that you can be mindful during a meditation, but mindfulness can be sort of a way of life that you do throughout your entire day. Is that kind of what you were getting at earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. It's taking meditation into daily life, and it's taking a shower and focusing on the feeling of the water and the smell that you're smelling and what exactly you're feeling in your body in that moment. And it's walking up the stairs and listening to the sounds of the crack of the wood under your feet. It's just noticing life, while letting go of the thoughts that try to pull us away. Like, you know how a thought will come in and it'll be like, oh, I have to remember to email that person. And that could be a thought that's complete, or it can go into, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I didn't do that earlier. That person probably thinks I'm an idiot. I should have done this. I should have done that. And back in 2007, I could have invested in whatever. Like, it just can go into like never ending. And in like the daily mindfulness, we're just practicing not doing that. We're just practicing going back to the here and now, taking the action if there's an action to take, writing down a reminder to email that person, but pulling ourselves back when we start to go into that like whirlwind of thinking.
So what are you usually mindful of? What are some of the things you're mindful of as you meditate? It might be your body, or is there any certain focus you try to take meditation in at times?
Yeah, I love that. So it's springtime here. I guess it's springtime in many places. I'm not sure exactly where you are, but I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's springtime here, and I live in a neighborhood with some trees in my backyard, and there's so many birds. It's like one of the biggest blessings of my life is all these birds we have. So especially in my morning meditation, they're like so loud, just chirping, celebrating springtime is what I believe they're doing. And so like I love to listen. And even if it's not the time when the birds are loud, I love to listen, but I especially love it when I can hear the birds. But I just love to tune into like, what can I hear? It's like a curiosity. And like my house will have some creaking that I can hear. There might be a dog barking down the street. There might be the buzz of an air conditioner or a heater, and just noticing all these different things. I love to focus on my breath, which is kind of one of the more common things that we learned about first, is like using your breath as an anchor and really just following the breath on its journey in and out of the body. And then I also love to feel kind of my inner energy body. So feeling, and this becomes much easier with meditation over time, but just noticing what you can feel, and you can feel like tingling and energy moving throughout your body. You can feel your hands tingling, you can feel your face tingling, just this aliveness within. And that can be a really great anchor to the present moment as well, too. Because when we focus on these things, it's like we're taking our awareness away from our thoughts. And so then it's easier to create these gaps in thinking. So it's really useful.
Do you ever focus on qualities like, I'm going to focus on peace, or I'm going to focus on love during this meditation, and, go in that direction?
I don't do that too much. I will say gratitude though. Yeah, I think that a lot of times I'll pull in some gratitude and maybe start off with like a gratitude prayer or some thinking of some things that I feel grateful for, and then just permeating in those feelings. Yeah.
So does it feel like in your day-to-day life, as you started to meditate more, your life starts to reflect how you feel in meditation? Because it's like when I first started meditating, it was great during the meditation and a little thereafter, but sometimes you'd get distracted in your day-to-day living and you'd be thinking things that aren't there during meditation. But over the years, it kind of your life starts to reflect your meditation. You know, you're less angry, you're less judgmental, you're less negative, things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like little by little, we're just becoming more aware of things. And so that awareness allows us to notice some of our old thought patterns and how maybe they aren't useful or they don't feel good. And we kind of drop them over time. So yeah, absolutely. And then I love to also like take the intention of mindfulness into, if I'm going somewhere and I know there's someone or something that might trigger me, going in with the intention of mindfulness and anchoring myself into the here and now so that when I do have judgmental thoughts about the situation, I'm detached from them. And there's this peace, you know, that you feel within. So yeah, that can be really huge too.
How did you get into teaching meditation?
So I became a certified life coach so I started meditating, became a certified life coach, started teaching meditation online primarily. And then, so I didn't really start teaching in person until after the pandemic kind of slowed down, eventually got certified in breath work. And then now I teach in person at retreats, but still a lot online. But I really just kind of started teaching it online through Facebook Lives and inviting people to workshops on Zoom and just really sharing what I had learned, and just kind of writing out scripts and kind of taught myself how to facilitate like a breath work or a meditation class. Yeah.
So is that your full-time job now, is breath work and meditation?
Yeah, breathwork, meditation, coaching. Yeah, I left the corporate world almost 2 years ago now.
So like in terms of breath work, because I've seen studies that talk about how your breath can help de-stress you and it can help you to lower your blood pressure, things like that. And of course, it's true with meditation studies. What is it about breath that is so powerful for us, do you think?
Oh man, there's so much. I mean, with us being able to start to regulate our nervous system. So when we experience the stress of daily life, whether that's traffic, when we're on the way to work and we're freaking out because we might be late or this person cut us off, or we got that email from our boss about that thing, right? We go into fight or flight mode, which is our nervous system shifting. And that happens to us a lot throughout life. It happens with severe trauma and it happens with the little things like I just described. And so when we go into fight or flight mode like that, and we don't then process our emotions, so we don't cry because we can't cry because we don't do that, right? Or we're at work or whatever, and we don't want to feel our feelings because they're uncomfortable, and society's taught us just don't feel things, right? So we grab a drink after work as soon as we can get our hands on one. We go on our cell phone, right? We're just constantly shoving our emotions further down into us. So though in that fight or flight mode, if we don't release those emotions, they kind of freeze up inside of us and become stuck in our body. And so our breath is just taps into that. And it's really, really magical. So with meditation and breath work, you're essentially learning how to regulate your own nervous system. You're just getting into the relax and rest mode versus fight or flight on your own through the breath, through that relaxation. And then there's also, so when we're breathing in through our nose, which we're typically breathing through our nose during meditation, we're breathing a little more air than we normally would, because we're typically breathing slowly, pulling in extra air. Often we're taught to like pay attention to our breath, and the paranasal sinuses in our nose are producing additional nitric oxide, which has so many health benefits. It relaxes us. It's related to happiness. There's just so many different health benefits of just increasing that nitric oxide. So there's just so many ways that our body responds very well to us breathing in this way. And then, we're just becoming at more peace, right? We're just like relaxing and becoming more peaceful. Stress is the reason for, they say, over 70% of visits to the doctor. So when we learn to de-stress and regulate our body in this way, it's just promoting wellness in every single area.
Well, and it's becoming more popular because my son's 8 now, and I remember when he was in preschool, they were teaching like a breath technique that they called star breathing to sort of, I think it was to impulse control and to help de-stress the kids. But they were even starting to teach it in preschool.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing, versus a couple of years ago, I'm seeing it pop up a lot of places. I think people's interests are definitely picking up. I think podcasts have been a huge part of that. Don't you feel like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like in terms of breath work, what do you teach people to do in terms of breath work?
So I typically focus on two different kinds. I do conscious connected breath work, which is a strong and fast breathing that is typically done in a laying down position. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes to take effect. So the full session is usually 45 to 60 minutes. And really what that type of breathing does, it shifts our consciousness. So it like alters our state of consciousness. It shuts off the default mode network of the brain, which is the part that's responsible for that like chatterbox, that incessant thinking that just never shuts up. So it actually shuts that part of the brain off. And in all of that, it allows us to tap into that layer of us where we're storing those repressed emotions that we're just repressing our whole lives, that are stored inside of us, that get triggered when people say things and we get so triggered and we're like, why did that bother me so much? They're rubbing up against those stuck emotions. So that type of breath work really works at a deep level to pull out those stuck energies, loosen them, shake them up, pull them out. And without re-traumatizing us, we get to release some of those emotions, regulate our nervous system, get into a relaxed state. And then I also teach a couple different energy breathing, and these have all different kinds of names. Breathwork's one of those things that's been around for thousands of years and isn't super, I want to say, regulated. So there's different names for different practices and different translations and things like that. But I teach a couple different forms of like energy breathing, which is just super powerful for releasing toxins, increasing focus and awareness. Helps you go really nicely into a meditation because you've let go of that overthinking. And it greatly increases the nitric oxide. So it has all those health benefits and mental health benefits too. So there's a lot that you can do with breathwork. There's so many different kinds. And I really think it adds a lot to a meditation practice. It gives you something to really focus on, you know?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that they had breath work that would go for like 20 minutes. Because, I mean, effectively, if you're doing intense breath work for 20 minutes, you would effectively go in a meditative state, even if you aren't consciously saying, I'm lying down to meditate. You'd effectively be meditating.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely relaxes you to that like trance-like state.
Mm-hmm. So like, do you have like just breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, or is it all in through the nose, out through the nose, hold for a few seconds or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different kinds. I typically focus on mostly breathing in and out through the nose, especially breathing in through the nose, because when we're breathing through our mouth, it can cause us to dry our mouth out and our lungs out. And especially with sleeping and with athletic activities and exercise, we tend to breathe through our mouth and that can cause problems. So typically I focus on breathing in through the nose, increase that nitric oxide. But I can guide us through like a real quick one if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, great. Well, yeah. So if anyone is driving or running on a treadmill, pause this to do it later, come back to it, or you can do it now. Just don't close your eyes. Just keep yourself nice and alert. Let's see, what should we do? So for anyone who's able to close your eyes, you can go ahead and do that now. Get yourself into a nice, comfortable seated position. You can have your legs folded underneath your lap. You can have your feet firmly planted on the ground, whatever is more comfortable for you. Just beginning to breathe into the belly, feeling the belly expand with air. And as you breathe out, feel it contract, pull back in. Slowly breathing in, filling up the belly. Breathing out, letting it relax. And pulling the air into the belly, filling it all the way up, breathing all the way up to the top of the chest, letting it out through the mouth. Breathing in through the nose, filling the belly, slowly filling up to the top of the chest. Hold the breath just for a moment and let it out. Just continuing to breathe in this way, releasing stored emotions from the heart center and releasing toxins. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes. And just might feel a little bit lighter. And those are just really, really simple breath work that you can do randomly throughout the day. And it would greatly benefit you to be, when you're in that traffic and you're starting to get pissed off, or you're waiting to pick up your child from daycare, whatever the thing is, and you're in that waiting mode, just taking some intentional breaths like that, releasing what you've stored throughout the day, can really make a huge difference.
So do you have a lot of people that come in because they're stressed or having different issues that come in for breath work?
Yeah, I would say stress and anxiety is probably the number one. And then a lot of people who really want to do the deeper side of breath work, the conscious connected breath work, who are working on themselves. They want to heal. They know they have stored trauma in their body, and they're looking for some different ways to release that. So, but yeah, definitely stress and anxiety is probably number one.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of breath work, have you ever heard of like 4-square breathing? Some people do that in meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many different little patterns like that, and they really give you something to focus you and relax you, and then from there going into a meditation without like focusing on your breath, or without, focusing on anything, and just strictly being the consciousness. I feel like it's a great way to set it up, versus, especially for people who are new to meditation, trying to sit there at first. It's like, I'm sure, did you have this experience when you first meditated? Like your mind's just going nuts and you're like, I can't do this. So I think that those little breathing exercises before are so helpful.
So in terms of breath, do you ever visualize energy going in and out of your body? And do you think there's a connection do you get into things like chi and energies within your body, concepts like that?
I don't do too much of that, but definitely focusing on feeling the energy. But I've done guided meditations where you were visualizing certain energies and talking about things like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you do any visualization in your own personal meditations now?
Not much. Occasionally I'll do a visualization if I'm like wanting to manifest something, wanting to bring about the feelings of something happening in like the outer world. Um, I guess most of the time I'm really focused on letting go of everything and just being with what is. But yeah, definitely visualizations can be really good too.
And sometimes with visualization, I can only hold an image for a few seconds, but I think you can sort of have the other five senses involved. Like you can think of a sense, you can think of something you're hearing, things like that. Use the other five senses.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be really powerful to like pull in, like you were mentioning, like peace or love, like things like that. Like using some visualization can be really helpful to whatever it is that you want to feel, like pull that in and then using all the senses to kind of like marinate in that and really like let that permeate in your body.
Hmm. So, like in terms of most of your work today, do you like how would a typical day go for you in terms of being a meditation teacher and breathwork teacher?
Yeah. So it's always different. Some days I have like an in-person, I do most of my in-person things and online like workshops. Most of them are going to be in the evenings, on the weekends. Tomorrow I'm teaching like a lunch break meditation series at noon. I do podcast interviews at least probably once a week where I'm on, I guess, on someone's podcast. I have coaching clients, so I have calls with them. Might have a private breathwork session that someone books. So the days are like they vary so much. But yeah, it's just always different.
And you said you've gone primarily more into breathwork now, less so than meditation. Why did you want to go specifically more in breathwork?
I feel like so many people that I've spoken to from having my own podcast and people reaching out through the different ways that people have found me, a big thing is people are first time meditators. They've never done it before. They're overwhelmed about it. They feel like they can't meditate. I hear that all the time. So I mean, I had been interested in breathwork for a long time before I became a facilitator, but I really had that in mind where I know that a lot of people, so this could be something that could help them get into meditation where it's just making it easier. It's making that transition easier. It's giving them an activity. It's like an active meditation so that they can then slide into a meditation afterwards. And then meditation becomes a lot easier to integrate into their life. So that was one of the biggest things. I wanted to give people that as a way to transition into meditation versus doing meditation first and then breath work, which is the order that I found them in, but also just learning the benefits of how it deeply heals trauma and releases those repressed emotions, really piqued my interest as a way to help people heal.
Yeah, and I heard another meditation teacher on this podcast. I asked her, well, what do you tell people that are first starting to meditate? And she said, well, usually I just tell them to breathe in and out for a few minutes and just go with that. So she actually uses breath to introduce people to the practice of meditation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really helpful because when you're focusing on your breath, it's hard to then also like have your thoughts. Like it just gives you a little bit of like a separation and it relaxes you too.
So is Jack
Yeah.
your life coaching connected to breath work and meditation? Do you sort of work it all in together?
Yeah. So with most of my clients, it's definitely something where we discuss meditation, mindfulness, breath work. They typically have access to my breath. I have the breath portal, which is my online membership for breath work. So they have access to that. So it's something that we use as a tool coupled with coaching. And often I'm helping people to like establish structures and routines and they hire me because they want accountability for what what they're trying to accomplish in life or how they want to feel. So
Mhm.
I'm helping them to set up these routines where maybe they're doing a meditation first thing in the morning, and maybe they're doing a powerful breathwork session once a week, and maybe they're working on being more mindful during the day. So yeah, it all kind of does like work together.
Hmm. Well, because I always think of, in terms of like being a life coach, I think kind of like what Tony Robbins does in terms of personal development, trying to like take your finances to the next level in your health and your relationships. And I kind of think of that as life coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big part of it. People come to me for they're struggling with their relationships. There's a lot of turmoil there, and they want to, take that to the next level, or with their businesses. I have one right now who is becoming a singer. So it's a lot of it's moving through fear, putting yourself out there, taking those chances, and moving through like all the fear that comes up. But for me, mindfulness and meditation and breath work is like such a powerful starting point for all of that. Because until you learn that it's like when you meditate and when you become mindful, your thoughts aren't in control anymore. You are in control. And until you get to that point, you can have all the success in the world, but it won't mean much because you're still overthinking, stressed, worrying about the next thing, and really breaking away from that pattern of being controlled by the mind allows you to be in control and allows you to be so much more focused and powerful and happy. So I think of it as like kind of like the stepping stone for everything else we could possibly work on.
Hmm. So it's gaining control within your own being first.
Yes. Yep.
So like, do you ever see people come in for anger issues or things like that, and breath work helps to take down anger?
I wouldn't say I've had anyone who specifically worked on that, but I definitely can say for myself, I used to have a lot of anger for sure. I used to be very short tempered, and these practices have really, really given me a 180 in that department. But I haven't had anyone specifically for that. But I think it's our repressed emotions and trauma, they manifest in different ways. For one person, it might be anger and outbursts in that way. For another person, it might be sadness and just different emotional responses to that stored emotional pain. So I think no matter what your personal like manifestation of that pain is, we can work on this energetic level through the breath to alleviate that and release those stuck energies to like allow us to be less reactive to whatever our triggers are.
Hmm. So how long does it usually take when someone comes in and they're really stressed or depressed to start to see results? Is it within the first time, and or does it take a few weeks, a few months to really work through a significant issue?
I mean, to really see a difference, at least a few weeks. Now, that's not to say that there aren't times when you can have a profoundly healing session of some type and something really changes your life, so to speak, as like I tend to say so many things change my life, right? But doing something once or for a week or two, you might see some differences, but typically we will fall back into the habit of overthinking and the habit of allowing our mind to run away with us, and we just run away with our thoughts and get caught up in all these stories about the future or the past. So I think really establishing a habit of these things is the most important. So giving it, what do they say, 21 days to make a habit, or something like that.
Hmm.
Giving it at least a few weeks, if not a few months, to really start to take what you're learning and integrate it into your daily life and bring it into your daily experience. And once you have it as a habit and you have it as something that you can go back to, you're going to see massive differences because you'll be triggered in everyday life, and you'll come back to, wait a second, let me come back to my breath. wait a second, I'm really angry right now about this email I got. Do I need to be angry about that? That's when everything starts to change, when you really integrate these things into your life.
Hmm. So have you ever had anybody with like PTSD or something come in and was helped by breath work and meditation?
I've had a lot of people who've gone through significant trauma, not necessarily PTSD that I can think of where they used breath work. I typically, when I work with clients, we are working on the future, right? So with life coaching, it's very future focused. We don't delve too much into like psychological traumas and things like that. And if there's PTSD or severe depression, I always recommend seeing someone who's an expert in those fields, a psychologist, which a lot of the times they already are, or they've really, really done that route a lot. And then with me, we're really focused on the future. We're focused on the present moment right now, and we're focused on healing, letting go of the past, right? Coming into the present. Yeah, so I can't really think of anyone specifically that's had PTSD though.
Hmm.
But I've heard breath work can be really healing for that.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
what kind of projects are you working on now? Have you written anything, or do you have any things you're putting together right now online, or?
Yeah, I'm always in the middle of like 100 projects. So I'm writing a memoir, which is, obviously like my life story, but then how I went from being super controlling, perfectionist, hustler, crazy, stressed person to the way I am now, really like highlighting that journey and allowing people to see themselves in me as the way that I was. So that's one thing I'm working on, and I'm working on developing a mindfulness workshop that can kind of be a signature workshop people can come to online, in person. I'm getting into more workshops in corporate settings and things like that, and yeah, different facilities where I can go and teach breath work. So yeah, I always have a lot of projects going on.
Where could people reach out to you if they want to find out about what you're doing and some of your programs and so forth?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My name on there is it's Leah Pardee. So if you type Leah Pardee in anywhere, you'll find something of mine. My podcast is Bare Naked Soul. Yeah, and then my website's leahpardee.com. So typing in Leah Pardee onto Google, you'll find a lot of things as well.
Hmm. Yeah, well, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me, Jay. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.